Welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen. It's really two programs in one. This is a series that appeals to your creative side. Food that is sumptuous stuff. How could that be? This is a program about people who want to eat healthy and reduce calories. Actually, it's about food with an aromatic quality that fills the nose. Oh, sure. But it's also about keeping my arteries clean by reducing fat. But it doesn't mean a thing if the food isn't rich and colorful. Maximize the flavor. Okay, but I must have healthy food that I can cook in minutes. I must minimize the risk. So welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen, where we get our heads together just for you. Well, welcome once again. I'm feeling sort of vaguely patriotic, depending upon which part of the world you come from. This time, this little thing is on the way here. It's a pressure cooker. And what I want to do is a little technique whereby I take beans and rice together under pressure in minutes. I mean, literally, that's what this is all about. That's the basic technique. Thank you. Just stay there. All right. We'll come back to that in just a second because it's only got just about 2 minutes to go, so I can't spend much longer than that here. Never do, really. Okay. Beans and rice. They're just some predisposition. Some people have got some ideas about this. First one is that beans and rice are sort of going down in price, and therefore, if you're in the suburbs and you just bought a BMW or something like that, you wouldn't eat those because it doesn't seem right. Juno, wow, I will get back to that in a second. Second one is really the time factor, and that is if you're going to cook beans, I mean, you've just got to have hours and hours and hours. Not really true. We'll get back to that one. And of course, the third one, which is a little bit difficult for me to explain to you, but let us imagine this fellow up here with a rather bloated stomach. And he's not too happy with life because he's floated to the ceiling. You know what I mean? Well, this is a complex sugar which actually gets into the gut and ferments there, and that's the reason why you rise to the ceiling under certain circumstances. I can cure that one too. Let's have a look at just those three because that's what this program's about. First of all, in terms of the price of things, Trina and I are very, very fortunate people. We've traveled a great deal. I can tell you we've eaten in some magnificent restaurants and hotels around the world and throughout the United States. And although they are low in price, believe me, they are very much the in food today. And as far as time is concerned, I can show you quite the opposite, how a bean can cook in as little as 7 minutes. All right? And as far as this fellow is concerned, you can bring him right down to earth because we've got a technique to do that too. He's smiling, by the way, and so everybody else. Other people smile around him. Okay, come on, I'll show you how it's done. I just thought I could tap out the signature tune, be rather good. Okay, first thing then that I want to do here is to exhaust the steam that comes from this one. And this is quite a good piece of equipment because you can, it's foaming a little bit at the moment, but it does have a tendency to do that, especially when you don't want to add fat to something. When you don't add fat, isn't this fun? When you don't add fat to beans and rice when you're cooking them, what you get is a foaming action. And when you get foaming action, it just foams everywhere. But if you put a little oil on the surface, you can do away with the foam. But as you know, it's my sort of dedication in life to do away with the fat, so I have to put up with the foam. All right, well, good. At least that was realistic. And back on here. When all the power has gone out of it, then just lift that up and get the rest of the stuff in. Now, tell you, if you're making a note of this, there's 4 cups of ham hock stock went in there, and 1 cup of brown rice, of long grain brown rice, all right? So that's in there at the present moment. Now, what I want to do is I want to add some beans to that. Now, the beans are pinto beans, and what I did, I put them in cold water, brought them up to the boil very slowly, about 8 to 10 minutes. This gets rid of what is called raffinose, and that's one of those complex sugars. Well, it doesn't get rid of it completely, but at least it stops it being totally difficult. And you then pour those in when the first amount, when the actual rice here has had 8 minutes, okay? When it's had 8 minutes, then you lift it open, then you put the beans in, and they only get 7 minutes from beans, really. And it works wonderfully. And they should come out just perfectly together. We'll be able to see, because there's this one, which is almost on the way now. Okay, good. So whenever you put the lid on, by the way, always check the exhaust hole and make sure that it's clear. Put it back on, and that can now get that extra 7 minutes on the heat and build up and do its thing. All right, now over here, I've got a little pan on the heat, and I've got a cup full of stock. And I just want to put that on. That's a cupful of the ham hock stock, and this is made in this way. It's really quite a simple thing. If you get a ham hock and you put it in water, right, and then you bring it to the boil and then throw the water out, you know, that just because you don't really know where it's been, and it's nice and clean then. Then put it under about 2 quarts of water in one of these fantastic piece of equipment, pressure cooker, and bring it up to pressure, and then 30 minutes, and just leave it to just rest there. And you will be able to strip off all the meat. There's this meat here, which I want to chop up, and all the rest is bone, and that can be discarded, and a lot of fat. So just go through it so that you don't have huge amounts of fat there. Pass a blade of a knife through it. It'll come out as tiny little pieces anyway as you strip it off the bone. But just pass it through so as to make it even, okay? And you'll have about 8 ounces of meat per each one of those ham hocks. Okay, great. Now just drop that down into the water over there and just raise the temperature because I really want it to boil. Now, into that, lemon, all right? Fresh lemon. And this is you see, there is a sort of roundness, a smoothness in the mouth with beans. And if you add a little lemon to that, it just is a bright note. It's what's called a bright note. All right? Stick that on the top. And I want 2 tablespoons full. And I found with this thing I can get just about 2 tablespoons full if you press down on it from a half a good lemon. All right, 1. There's the second one. Slight hesitation. That's probably one of the seeds in there. Now, where that would be just round and flat and sort of a little salty, now it's got bright notes coming out of it, which is terrific. All right, so that's going well. Now put a lid on that and just get that up to the boil. The bean that I'm using here is a pinto bean called a cowboy strawberry, actually, because of the freckles on it. And it's one of the haricot beans, and it's a North American bean. And beans like this were found in excavations 7,000 years ago that they were being cultivated in North America. Isn't that amazing? And beans like these, you see, this is a great white northern, and this one here is the red kidney bean, and a black bean or turtle bean, and garbanzo. There's so many things that you can actually do, so many different beans. I mean, you know, the moment you just get stuck into this sort of thing, it will be the most phenomenal stuff for your family, at the same time as just wonderful experience, great creative stuff. This is a collard leaf. And just by binding those collard leaves together and then just running through it, you get what's called a sort of a rough chiffonade, or chiffonade. And these, if you get a whole bunch of collard greens, that should do it. It's just about 1 pound of collard greens altogether on the scales. See when this is boiling here like this? Then take those collard greens. You can see, Graham, you're never going to get it in. Oh, I think you might be right. Wash it thoroughly and then get it in. And it's like grass clippings. There we go. Jam the lid on top and it'll steam that through. Good. Now, there is a terrific seasoning that goes in this one. And it needs to have just that little bit of a bite, you know. And here it is. It's just 1/2 teaspoonful of cumin seed, 2 cloves, 1/4 teaspoonful of thyme, dried thyme, and 1/4 teaspoonful of cayenne pepper. All right? And then this comes over in this little whiz kid thing of mine. And then you just wind that up so that the seeds get completely pulverized as well as the clove. And what you've got there is a kind of Creole seasoning. And it's hot. And it sort of grabs you by the nostrils. It's wonderful stuff. This is what it looks like when it comes out. Just like that. You can use fresh thyme as well. Just great. All right, let's just exhaust the steam, make sure that I just exhaust it. See, too much foam in one day. And unlock it. This is one of these elliptical ones, by the way, that you turn sideways. It really stops you having an accident. Ha! Wonderful. Look at that. Perfect beans, perfect rice together. I mean, just bang on. Wonderful. Now, how to serve this up? Simple. This is about the simplest, little bean dish I know. Great one to start on. Just take a good... this is for 4 portions, by the way, so I'll show you what a portion actually looks like. Oh, the smell that's coming off this is just gorgeous. So just slop it on. There we go. That would be a portion. And then push it out around here like so. Okay. Now for the collard greens. The collard greens should still be just sort of virtually tossed in the pan. And this is where you get this seasoning. It's called POP. And POP stands perfume for the palate. And now toss it. Toss it, integrate it thoroughly, because it really needs to go through. If you get a piece that's drenched in it, you will know. I will know. I'm going to eat this in a moment. All right, and then take a good dollop of the greenery, the mountain greenery, and dump it on the top, just like so. Doesn't that look great? Oh, Lord, look at that. Fine. Turn it all down. Let's go and have a look at the numbers, all right? Oh, the smell of that is just fabulous. Hello, Jeeves. Okay, there it is. That's just exactly what it'll look like for you, too. And I hope that, we've covered some of those points, at least. Let's have a look at the numbers. Now, we're going to compare this with a cassoulet, with a French cassoulet. It's one of the dishes that Trina and I had at one of those famous restaurants, Colony in Madison Avenue, years ago. And 745 calories for the dish. 403, so we've taken quite a dive there. Fat was 40 grams of fat, in a cassoulet. Quite a lot. So down to 11, that's a major drop. Saturated fat was 15, and that's down to just 4. So the percentage of calories that come from fat, which is the important thing that we look at, 48%. This is down now to 24%. 24%, I think is kind of the way that I like to try and aim for as a max. Then cholesterol, 113, down to 25, which is good news. Sodium, that was a whoopee, so is this one actually a little bit. It comes from the ham hock, 1351. And the dietary fiber is 15, and that's down to 7 because I use beans and rice, which made a complete protein. And in the cassoulet, of course, it's just beans. All right, good. Okay, of course, am I going to get one of those strands which is full of it? Now, of course, because you've made that, it's rather like fettuccine. It sort of goes on forever, this stuff. And it fills the stock, comes into those beans, and it's the most lovely flavor. It's so good. Please try this. This is really worthwhile, okay? Now, and springboard. Take the idea and then think of just what you'd like to do with different kinds of beans and, the whole thing. Okay, now I'm going to springboard the idea too. And so we're just going to do a completely radical dish, all right? Next one coming up. You have a look at this one. Come on. All right, let's get radical. Now, this one is a springboarding attempt. And by the way, just before I forget it, the cowboys call them Mexican strawberries, not cowboy strawberries, obviously. Okay, now, on the go here, I've got the vegetable which is going to go with the rice and bean dish. So there are 6 small carrots there, cut in this rather neat little, diagonal form here. They look nice, and they also actually cook rather better when they steam in that way. So boiling water underneath it and steaming away, they take about 8 minutes. Okay, this is on the heat here, and just a little, just 1 teaspoonful of oil, and that's the light olive oil with just a touch of sesame in it, and half an onion. By the way, on this whole thing, you really do need a sharp knife when you're going to attempt to do things. Never chop like this with anything else but a really sharp knife. You say, well, that's probably more dangerous. Do you know it isn't? It is really dangerous to try to do that kind of chopping with a blunt one, truly. Okay, so this is now chopped up and just sliced and then one cut through. And sizzle, and we're off. No garlic, just the onion itself, and half an onion is quite enough for this dish. All right. Here is the just some spices that go into this, and this is a sweet and savory thing at the same time. So I've got a couple of bay leaves and brown sugar, and just some cumin seed, which has been ground up, and that's a teaspoonful of cumin seed and a whole tablespoonful of brown sugar. And there's quite a lot in this dish. It serves 4 people very easily, so you see just a little bit goes a long way. And immediately the smell that will come out of it, and you'll say to yourself when you're doing this, chili. That smells like chili. And it's not surprising because, you know, the chili powder is a mixture of cayenne pepper and cumin, and that's what makes it, that wonderful smell. All right, so now the sugar's going down nicely as well also. 2 bay leaves, drop those in. And these are the beans that I'm going to use this time. And these have not been pre-soaked. By the way, that raffinose and stachinose, not stachinose, yeah, it could be, but stachyose, these are the 2 sugars, complex sugars, which ferment here. What you do to stop that, you know, is what I showed you earlier on. I hope you noticed it. I sort of got lost. And that is you put the beans in cold water, raise them for 8 to 10 minutes, and then just let them set there, and then pour the water off. And that actually gets rid of most of it. You couldn't get rid of everything, it's cultural. Okay, so these are white northern or great northern beans, and they're supposed to look like kidney shaped, but they're not really, and they could be mistaken for navy beans or pea beans. And what you need to watch out for is make sure, just check them over, buy them from a place that you know sells a lot of beans, and if there's a lot of them that appear to be broken in some way, I've just got one here to show it to you. You see this one here? See it slipped out of its shell and it's sort of wrinkled. It could be that they're getting old. If they get too old, they can really be very tough, and sometimes they go moldy, and if they're moldy, they're bad news. So do check them out. Right, so that's going well there. And now we just take 5 cups of water. I don't know whether you noticed this, but last time it was 4 cups of stock, and this is 5. That's because they haven't been pre-soaked or pre-cooked. So they need that extra bit because they're going to soak up that extra thing of water. All right? And these are going on first, and then the rice goes on next. Oh, here's the lid. I was wondering where it got. And so what you do with this one is you actually, first of all, check out the lid. Sorry, I was just going to stick it on. You see this here? It's got 1, 2, 6 little holes and holes around here. This is a new modern device. In case you're worried about this sort of thing, this will stop it from blowing up. I cooked once in Dallas, and it's all over the ceiling, and I had to sign the ceiling. But it was an older thing. So, and then the other thing is you just check this out. I can actually see you at the moment. Through the hole, make sure that the hole is completely clear, and then put it on. All right, this is one of these things that slide in sideways so that it double checks, doesn't come off. And this just fits on the top, and that's the weight. And then you bring it up to boil. Now, then you do 10 minutes for these beans that haven't been soaked, and then you release the pressure after 10 minutes, just like I did before, and then you put the rice in for 15 minutes, because rice still takes 15 minutes to pressure cook. So it takes 25 minutes overall, just a bit longer than the other one took. The other just took 15 minutes. Okay, so that's going nicely there now, and this one we'll just uncap and just make sure that it hasn't got anything. Come on, Charlie. Always, never try and release it until you've been quite sure that you've lifted it. Oh, everything else. They're just perfect. Look at those. Look, and see these are the most gorgeous golden color, and can you feel the smoothness to them at the same time? Well, here is the radical seasoning. It's an orange. And if you take one of these little graters, little hand grater here, I've already done this all the way around, so it's the zest of the outside of all of the orange. If you do that first, or let me just put this on. When these carrots have had about 5-6 minutes, then just get these, these are mustard greens, and whack those onto the top level of the steamer, and just jam that on. That'll be nice and crisp, this little bit on the side here. And they don't take long, just to steam through at the end. Okay, back to this. It's about 2 tablespoons full. Gives you lots and lots of bite. And of that orange on the outside. Good. And just stir that in. Don't stir it in too robustly because they're very tender indeed. Okay, in addition to using the outside of the orange so that nothing is wasted, we've also got the inside as well. Good old-fashioned things. Isn't it wonderful how old things still work? The juice out of 1 orange. All right? Nice, fresh orange juice. Good. Waste nothing. Thank you. And just pour that in, and it moistens. I know what this tastes like. It's just, I mean, to think that you can get excited about beans, I know, but I mean, this is the sort of thing you can do, you see. If you springboard, if you take these ideas that I do, little simple things like this, and say to yourself, hey, why wouldn't I do that with red kidney beans? And I could stick some pineapple in with it. Mark, I think that would taste awful. I'm just trying to think of something. If you like pineapple and beans, why not? It might be one of those great creations. Get into it. Okay, so those are about 6 spring onions, green onions, and they're stirred in with the rest of the thing too. Now for the spice. Here we go. I need just a bit of cumin, a bit more cumin seed, and that's a ½ teaspoonful of that. And that's you know, that incredible flavor, which is so much of beans. And this just is, I call this the Creole torpedo. This is the ¼ teaspoonful heaped. Just gives it a good old spicy ring to it. And about ½ teaspoonful of salt. A bit more than I would normally use, but you know, beans really do soak things up a bit, and you'll need to have that just to give it that last little touch. Stir it all in together now. Again, be careful, just anoint them carefully. Don't cook the green onions because they'll need to be just marvelously crisp and ready to go. Now, plate. And we're off. A good heaping of those beans. Look at that. And imagine the orange, would you please, to see how it comes down so beautifully. And a good spoonful for color there of the carrots on the side. And where's my tongs? And then mustard greens. If you've never had mustard greens, they are super. And when they're just cooked like that, they're just, color is just bang on. All right? A little bit of parsley, why not? Good. And let's have a look at the numbers. All right? These numbers are going to be compared with the Boston baked bean, actually. And so Jeeve, on my left, thank you so much, old friend. And Sigmund, nice of you to turn up. Okay, this one, then, this is how it looks. Colors abundant. And the colors abundant here, the darker, you know, with the pork fat in it, which is the classic bean. I put the same vegetables on so as to be able to compare those numbers, you know, with authority. So the classic baked bean would be 556. You know, that's a good meal. And this same volume, 246, right down on calories. Fat is 16 grams of fat. That's whistled down to 2. Saturated fat was 5, and this is 0, zip, nix. 25% of calories came from fat, which is good, really, when you see, but it's a high number here. So that comes down to 8%. Imagine a bean dish that everybody always says is fattening with those calories and that amount of percentage of calories from fat. Okay, cholesterol, 0. And sodium, 190, even though I put in just that little bit of extra sodium there. Okay, dietary fiber was 21 in the classic. That's a whoopee thing for fiber. If you're looking for that, we go down a bit with 6 because, of course, we added the rice to it instead of just the straight beans. So, here I go. You might wonder what a mustard green actually tastes like, and I have to tell you, it's just a little hot. It's spicy and nice. Oh. That is radical. That is so good. Oh! Boy, I've got a little bit of cayenne pepper. No. Well, have a wonderful time. Enjoy your friends and your family and use just a little less of the Creole torpedo. I look forward to seeing you next time. I need some water. God bless you. Bye.